Tuesday. I hope everybody had a great long weekend. Um, I don't have a long intro, so I'm going to go straight to the teams. And I'm going to start with Shauna. It looks like you're the rep for your team today.
Well, Kajal and I have just been working through our issues that we made from last week. Yeah, I got through most of mine for my other form, but I'm still working on Kajal's and I's form.
Can I make a quick request? When teams are talking about their form, can they just say what form it is they're doing? Please.
Yes. We're doing the complaint establishing paternity form.
Great. And we said we were going to try to aim for a demo for that form on Friday. Awesome. And I'll move to Donna and Ryan.
Yeah, so we are basically working on the issues. We fixed a lot, and now we're kind of on the point where we need some legal advice in terms of some of the questions and how to go about like coding some of the aspects and stuff. But yeah, we're good. We're good to go as long as we get the expert then. And we have a couple of small issues now to fix before that as well.
Yeah, we tried to work on the issue that Michelle tried to give us some advice on last week, and we were unsuccessful in doing so. So we may need to do like a video call or something on that if you have an opportunity. But other than that's our last real issue, and then it's just, as Donna said, talk to the SME and then figure out if there are certain questions that don't need to appear sometimes or do need to appear other times, depending on what is actually required legally for the form.
And for the juvenile name change, Caroline, are you the SME on that one, or did you say that you were gonna pull someone in for that?
I can't remember what I said. I'm not the SME, but I can talk to a couple of people and see if I can find somebody.
Great, thank you. And also just if the teams can maybe say like what the issues were so that people know what you've been working on. You know, last week we talked about the signature showing up early and a lot of people are having the same issues. So if we can kind of share what our issues were. You don't have to get into the details of how you solved it, but it might just encourage a little more sharing across the team members as well.
Do you want me to say what ours were?
That'd be great.
Yeah, so the one that we were still a bit stuck with was making a list for, specifically for us, it's like if different parents and the user and our guardian need different interpreter languages, just to how to like concatenate those into a list and display them on one line on the form. So we're going to try and work through that. And I think it can probably be applied in a couple different areas. Like we were thinking also maybe with phone number, if you needed to put in like an area code or like an international code or something, just put it in like separate blocks and then push it together into one phone number on the form. But so we'll try to work through that and then hopefully come back with an answer at a future time.
Okay, great. And yeah, the answer will also be in your repo when it gets solved. Will people be able to go in and steal that code if they're not feeling confident in talking about it? So Regis and Catherine.
I don't think we have that many updates from Friday. I did a couple issues, like just changing a yes, no answer to yes, no, I don't know. That was very easy. I did it by myself. That was exciting. And that's kind of really all we worked in. I got rid of a couple screens that we weren't really using. And then I am trying to change the user date to be more specific of what date. And for some reason, it's not pulling in. So that's one thing I'm doing today is for some reason, it's not pulling in my question. I don't know why.
Catherine, what form are you doing?
Oh, the late docketing statement for the appeals court. That's all.
Okay, Regis, anything to add? Just yes or
no? No, not really. Just moving forward, I would say our last big issue that needs to get resolved is regarding the indigency form that the appeals court would like. So if anybody else has that issue or needs to do that as well. I'm not sure if there's anybody else working with the appeals court, but there is. Always happy to brainstorm.
Well, isn't that addressed by the new AL docs? It's just an attaching second interview. I mean, there's not just attaching, but like that's addressed in the new.
I think we just haven't got to look at it, but yeah.
I would say it. If you wanted to find an example of a form that's using like all AL document and it incorporates the affidavit of indigency, the adult name change petition might be a good one to use as a reference, because it will show how to, like, first of all, just include the affidavit of indigency. It will show how to, like, add it to the downloaded documents, and it will also show how to, like, pre-fill the fee amount. So those are all things that you're going to probably want to do on your form, and I think that would be a good demo.
I realize my giving thumbs up does not help you, Clinton, because you probably cannot see our videos.
But yes, and so for you guys, the trigger will probably be different. That's what you'll have to maybe make some changes, but the process of getting it into your interview would closely mirror that one. Just a call out there. Great. Yeah, Catherine.
I was just say thank you.
Okay. Joelle.
So I have been mostly focusing on doing the plain language review and changing up the wording on the questions in the pretrial housing memo. I talked with Aubrey just a little bit about that docket number question that I was struggling with, and the fixes we thought of actually kind of made it worse and made the question appear even earlier in the interview. So I just put that on hold for now. Going through the plain language review, I did work a little bit on the DA's office form, the case integrity review form with Shauna. But yes, that is my focus as of now.
Joelle, was it the docket number or the signature block, the signature flow that was coming up too early?
Sorry, it was the signature flow. Misspoke.
Okay. If you stick around for Teaching Tuesday, it might be something worth bringing up because that's the third time that I've seen that happening in the past week. And I don't know if it's all for the same reason, but it's because we tried the same reasons for you, but it might just be worth talking about and seeing if it's something that needs to be fixed behind the scenes too.
Got it.
Cool, thanks. Eleni.
Hey, I finished the consumer debt testing. And then I did some of the 209A testing, but because like the what do you call it? Like the testing information scenarios, they're older and I don't know, it's also a bigger form. So I did some, and I'm just wondering if I did it correctly, because if not, then I'll tweak the way I'm doing it. And then I also was looking for addresses for the court, what's that form called? The court filing addresses thing. It's easy to find email addresses, but it's like impossible to find mailing addresses or the filing addresses. And I made some comments on that sheet, but I'm also going to start like actually reaching out and trying to find out and confirm that the addresses are different.
Okay, great. So for the 209A, I saw your message and I've not replied. My apologies. And
Don't
Quentin,
worry.
if you want, you have want to correct me here, but I think it was going to be a possibility that the old scenarios really didn't fit, but it was worth giving it a go. So if you're finding that it's just really not fitting the testing now, we might need to just make some new scenarios and can kind of compile a lot of it together. So good, it's just as good to know that they aren't working, that they are working for the testing. And
yeah, and
Clinton.
I would say like the old scenarios I think were like hyper detailed, but what we really are wanting to check is that we have good coverage of the different branches of the 209A. So things like, is there a child? Is there not? Are there enough children to trigger the addenda or not? are we triggering all the different forms? So the scenarios should be helpful to like help you figure out which facts are relevant, but as long as we've covered like 10 really distinct different kinds of paths that someone might take for the interview, that's really helpful information. It's not as important the exact facts that were selected, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
And so we can take a second look together and maybe select the tests that we're doing from each of those sheets, because each of the sheets has kind of like a different focus for everybody, different parts of the 209A, and we're kind of picking different ones. So we can take a little time and make sure that we're covering it in each of those that we're picking and look at them, because as Quentin said, not as much about the detail of it, everything, but that we're covering everything. So we'll try to pick those together. And then the addresses for the court, I think that calling them, we said, was going to be to confirm the address was going to be the last resort, but it sounds like you're there. So if we're not finding it, sometimes we're going to have to call. And I bet you have a lovely telephone voice.
The only other thing I could think of for the court testing or court addresses, Eleni, is, you know, if there's certain patterns for the type of address that you're not able to find, we could talk about it and see if there's a way to solve a bunch of them at once. And for certain types of courts, we might be able to reach out to people who practice in those courts and send out an email and see if people will respond. But like, you can't give them a list of, here's 150 courts, tell me where to file. But they might be able to tell you if you give them a list of like 5 courts, and you can spread out the work a little bit that way without having to call each clerk. So I don't know if that will be faster or not, or how comfortable or excited you are to think about calling the individual courts, but that's just a possible approach that you might not have started yet.
Yeah, that's not a problem for me. It's just that there was, I don't know how normal this is, but literally only one court out of all of those that I've been looking at so far, only one of them has on their website a different mailing address. But like, I don't
That
have
will
a
be
problem
pretty
with like
common.
calling.
Yeah.
Sure. I was just gonna say, like, I don't have a problem with calling and emailing.
Okay, yeah, and then you can always see, like, some of the courts might not be good about getting back to email, some of them might. Like, I would say, like, that in general, the place where the court is physically located is where you can file stuff. But there are exceptions, especially for smaller satellite locations of courts. That's the main issue, where if the court says it's only open certain days a week for certain types of cases, you shouldn't file that type of case at that location. So the default is kind of file at the address of the court, but that's the default for probably like 70% of the courts. I would say probably like a third of the things that we have listed as separate court locations aren't a place where someone should file something. That's my just back of the hand estimate though, so it could be over.
How do you know if a court doesn't provide a mailing address? How do you know if they have left it out, or if they just, if their physical location is their mailing address?
I mean, like, so the one pattern that I can tell you is like for the housing courts, for example, that I practiced in, you have to file at the main location, not at the satellite sessions. Sometimes it will say on the court website, don't file at this location, but not always. So it's a practitioner note, and the reason why we're building this database is because it isn't easy for litigants to find that out.
Do you think the court service centers might be a good resource? Rather than calling the
really
courts, call the court service centers? And
that's a great idea. I bet we could, yeah, that's a really good idea. And it will depend on the kind of court too. So for some of the, like the district courts, they have a location, right? So if you're filing something in the district court, almost always you can file at the address they give you, unless it's like maybe a really rural court and they have 2 sittings. Like I think there's one town in Western Mass where there's 2 courts that serve the same town. I wouldn't be surprised if only one of those is a place you could mail stuff.
Caroline, can you explain what a court service center is? Since
Yeah, I
don't
was just
know a
thinking
lot of
about
law students do
that.
this. Thank
So
you.
I can try. So the court has, I don't even know. So I guess the court system has physical places that you can, in some courts where pro se's can go in and get help with their papers and a lot of the practical stuff for filing their courts. I can't remember how many there are, court service centers, but you can find court service centers on mass.gov/courts, I think. And there's also, so there's one woman who's in charge of all of them, but then each one of the court service centers has somebody who's in charge of that, the service center at that court. And they're incredibly helpful. And they really love this project. And so the thing about the court service centers, they can help you get forms, they can help you fill out forms, they can help you file forms in terms of all the procedural stuff. They're not allowed to give any legal advice, of course. It's a personal decision how far you go in terms of advice. But they're very helpful, and they're a lot like the law librarians as well, which I think you guys know what law librarians are, right? If you're law students, you know what law librarians are. So if you think about it that way, they're very similar to law librarians, apart from the books. And that's what they are, really. I mean, they're just virtual, well, I don't know now, right? I don't think you can go, I don't know. Can you go in there now? I don't know where they are.
Put a link in
I
the
don't think
assembly
you
line.
can.
Yeah, they're still
Yeah,
locked down, right? Yeah.
it says remotely still. So,
Mhm.
but for anyone who's curious, and specifically for Eleni, I put a link in the assembly line to the page on
Yeah.
mass.gov.
So Lenny, you can try the court service centers. You have to, I don't know how many there are, but you go to you go to the court website and you can find who has court service centers. The other thing I'm thinking about is the law librarians. You can chat with the law librarians between, I think, 9 and 4, Monday through Friday. And so you could get in touch with the law librarians in the various parts. And that's what that's what they're great at doing. And it's a chat so that they can look this stuff up, and they'll email you. And the law librarians they've been around since before court service centers, and they are incredibly helpful. And if you tell them the project that you're working on, they'll be, delighted. And they're pretty real. I mean, law librarians are reliable sources. So I bet they'll be able to find the mailing addresses for you. And if they don't have them at hand, they'll do your work for you.
Thanks so much, Caroline.
One more thing that might be worth clarifying is, like, when we say mailing address, it's not like it's not a court. It's going to be a court, but it's probably like the central court for that issue or that geographic area. So like Superior, like a lot of courts, they serve a whole county, but they have multiple locations because counties can be really large. They don't want people to have to travel really far, like 20 miles to get to the court when there could be one next to you is nicer. So, but they might still make you file the paperwork at the main location. So that's just one more detail.
So distinction you want to make sure you make when you talk to the court service centers and the law librarians.
And you might also have courts that are bodies that sit within a physical, like it's weird because we're just talking about the physical building, which is a court, but then there are courts, which are sort of bodies or entities
Like
that might
small
sit
claims,
within,
right?
yeah, that might sit within a court, but only on certain days. So it might be on certain days of the week, this court is in session in the court building in, Lowell. But that likely, if it's one of those small ones, that might be one of the satellite ones. And so you wouldn't want to mail something to that court building when that court isn't in session unless they've decided that's the way they went, but they might not be there half the week, right? So like mailing it to them there, just to give you some motivation as to why there's this crazy thing. But I think we've probably beaten a dead horse on this one. Eleni, do you feel like you have what you need to move forward?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thumbs up. Kajal, we did jump to your team earlier, but did you have anything you wanted to add? Anything specific?
Yeah, we're just working through issues. Specifically, I'm having an issue with the signature showing up on our form establishing paternity. But yeah.
Okay, I've encouraged everyone with this signature to maybe bring it to Teaching Tuesday, because yeah, there's a lot of groups struggling with the same thing. So that's a great place to do it today. Sarah.
I had a really life-changing weekend. Thanks to Michelle, we figured out my whole template issue. I'm in a great spot. I just had to clean up the original form because there are less fields for the new form. I'm still like nervous to delete things. I don't know. I now have a complex where I think the form's going to change again, but in a good spot. I think next steps, I definitely have to demo it. I was planning on this Friday, but I realized I have a wedding this Friday, so I will need to figure out another time, but in a good spot with the form. Right now I'm kind of collecting the questions for the subject matter expert. There's still a few wonky things I want to make sure I iron out, and I want to make sure. So when I had done kind of the language around the first form, it all came from the general guide, so I think it's all the same, but I just want to make sure that the form change didn't impact any of that. So in a good spot. And I also wanted to touch upon what Eleni had brought up about the court location. So yesterday, when I saw this in the grab bag, I had also put my Trello face on it, like, oh, I can help with this. So I had added the email column because my strategy was like, should I try just BCCing a bunch of these courts, being like, hey, can you confirm your filing address? And I did hear back. So I did 6 in this pilot program. I heard back from 3. So 50% isn't too bad. I just wasn't sure if that was even like the right way to go about this. So just to say that, Eleni, I'm with you in this journey. I'm happy to help. I don't know if we want to like start at opposite ends of the list, but do we think that the BCC approach is not the right approach? It just seemed like people got back to me so fast. So, but I don't know if I'm asking the right question. I pretty much was just like, good afternoon. Could you please confirm your filing address for me? Like I didn't say like, hi, Barnstable Court, because I was BCCing 6 courts. Or do we think phone calls are better?
I don't know personally, because I have not interacted with the courts, but it seems like if we're getting a reply and nobody is bothered by it, it's not bad to get a confirmation. And were you going and confirming ones that were already up on websites, or?
So I took kind of the spreadsheet. I started filling in email addresses. So I'm sorry, Eleni, I feel bad because I don't think the original ask was not for email addresses. I was just keeping track of like who I could reach out to so that I could just do a big like copy, paste into BCC subject line. My subject line was like filing address confirmation, and then my like generic email to the courts. And then obviously one by one, people responded to me confirming, but it seemed like a good way to knock out 50% of them if we feel like that's good. And then for the people that don't get back to us, I think it's going to get tricky when we start getting into, because I even noticed that some of the email addresses now, like the bigger court, like the different divisions in bigger courts, it seems like they have the same email address, but they're different divisions. So I think that's where my system fails. But maybe, I don't know. So I just want to, I know we just talked about this at length, but Eleni, just wanted to let you know that I was the one just creeping in there.
Sorry, Eleni, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a smart idea because I did notice the emails and I was like, I wonder, like someone has a good idea behind this and I want to talk to them. So we should definitely message like outside of this like Zoom call.
Yeah, I was all on that BCC train being like, maybe we'll just knock some of these out stat and then do the phone calls for like the more complex, like I think Bristol seems like there's the same email address for a lot of, like there's 3 superior courts and 3 different addresses.
The one thing you might have to watch out for is that the clerks, I think a lot of those email addresses go to the individual clerks, they get rerouted. So you might not, if you're doing everything BCC, you might not be able to connect their response with their court because they could be, well, that's just something to worry out for. So if you're saying basically confirm your address, but you're not saying confirm your address for what court, and you get something from a random clerk and their email doesn't allow you to determine what court they're talking on behalf of, then
Yeah,
that
also
that
a
could be an
great,
issue.
also a great point. So far, everybody's the clerks, everybody's had like an
Yeah,
alias on it.
If they, yeah.
Oh, it's been good. I have this. It's a very experimental approach, but
No, it's anything that can make your life easier. But
Yeah.
let's
but yes,
I was
Eleni,
gonna say-
we could connect.
I was going to say it might, you might be going and getting an email address from a page that has a mailing address on it, and we might want to just, at least include the one that we're finding on the website in the list. And then if we don't have an email address, or excuse me, an address on the website doing it, because it might be a little bit of duplicative work for you also if you're on the page and it's somewhere else on there, just relying on the email response. So, but also working from different ends is probably a good approach while you're both working on it. And yeah, but thank you. And Sarah, also, I know that Tuesdays are hard for you. So if we need to set up a demo for the, which form you want, request to choose someone as an authorized rep on a not a Tuesday or Friday, let us know, because that's something that's been done before and want to make sure that you get the feedback when you need it. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Maybe I'll see if I can snag a separate time slot. I thought this Friday would work, and then forgot my cousin was getting married. So,
well,
okay.
cheers to them. I
Yeah.
hope it's a great time. All right. Michelle, do you have anything?
Just the same testing stuff, just been banging away at that. And we're almost to version 2. Yay.
Cool. 2 thumbs up.
Then y'all can start breaking it.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it.
Bryce, did you have anything?
No major updates yet. Still working on e-filing, and can individually send hard-coded information to Jefferson Parish, and I can also individually read all of the variables from DocAssembly into the server itself. And so now I just need to wire up all of these individual things. But getting close to actually sending one completely end-to-end filing to Jefferson Parish at least. So
Fantastic. David, did you have anything?
not really. I wasn't so much raising my hand as I was trying to make the little party icon show up better for. But I'm realizing I might be reversed image. This might not be behind. This might be behind. I was trying to make it easier to see against the bookcase. I was trying to celebrate Price. There we go. Yeah, no, I don't have any any real updates.
Okay. And Caroline, did you have anything?
No, I don't.
Cool. All right. And with that, I think we're good on stand up.
Did Quentin?
Oh, I'm sorry, Quentin. You've moved from my order. My bad.
So I started working on the Illinois fee waiver petition, but I don't think there's a lot to add on that yet.
All right,
Cool.
and I will.
I was just going to say, I think of Quentin every time I see an Illinois license plate now, but I have no